Good morning, everybody. We're going to do GitHub Actions with Tmate today and talk about those. And we can talk about any other topic about GitHub Actions that you want to talk about as well, since essentially we'll just be working with different angles on GitHub Actions, but we'll be looking at Tmate, particularly how you can drop into a GitHub Actions session and use SSH to debug what's actually going on there. So that'll be our topic today. Let me give you a link to my notes that I have. So I'll drop those in the meeting chat. These are just my notes. Doesn't mean we can't go to other places, but that's what I've been experimenting with this morning to see if we can do some things. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Randy Fay. I'm the project lead of the DDEV project, and I'm in Palisade, Colorado in the US, where we have a beautiful fall day here. The leaves are starting to turn outside. It's starting to get a little cooler than it has been. We had a hot summer, as most of you are having hot summers. And I just got back from a long weekend hiking with my son in southern Utah in a couple of places called Goblin Valley and Bryce Canyon National Park and that kind of thing. We had a nice time. He wore me out. So, Andre, go ahead and introduce yourself, please. Just say a little something about yourself and DDEV and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Andre from Bavaria in Germany. I'm mostly a Type 3 developer, and I use DDEV all my work days and also in my private time. And I also set up some GitHub actions and had hard times to find out what's failing. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
Great to have you. Great to have you. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm David. I've been a Drupal developer for about 10 years, but I really like Golang and I like DDEV, so I'm wanting to contribute more. I'm outside of Dallas, Texas, United States. Yeah.
Very good. Great to have you. I hope the transcription, I'm just chatting with Truls, who will introduce himself in the chat. Usually he has an interpreter, and I don't see the interpreter today. Stas, go ahead.
I'm Stas Zhuk. I am the dev maintainer. I'm from Kremenchuk, Ukraine. And I also work on Laravel projects as PHP developer. And I'm happy to be here.
Okay, great. Alberto.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Alberto here. I'm based in Zurich. I've been doing Drupal for quite a few years. I discovered the app also like 5 years ago, even a bit more, and using it since then. Now I work in a payment company, and we try our products in different shop systems, and we use the dev for all of them as well. So yeah, happy to be here to learn something new today about GitHub's action. So yeah, thank you for the training, and yeah, happy to be here.
Great to have you. Okay. Do you want to go ahead, Truls? Just give Truls a second here. We'll get started after that. Okay. Well, we'll miss the interpreters, but we'll do, of course, Truls, we'll watch the chat for anything like you have to say. Okay, very good. Oh, yeah, okay. You do see the captions, right? The captions are new to me, so I'm not that I'm not sure. I wasn't sure whether they apply to everybody when they're on or not, but that's good. I did see that the recording doesn't seem to have them. So last week we had the captions on and the recording didn't seem to have them. So I didn't really understand that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started then. I have as you see there in the notes, let me, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Otherwise, I'll forget that I'm not sharing it. So here we have my notes here about why we need Tmate. Obviously, if you have tests running or anything else, you are going to you're going to try to run those tests manually, and you're going to try to sort out the problems. But sometimes, actually a fair bit of the time, the environment that GitHub Actions is running in is a little too different from what you can figure out. You don't know what GitHub has installed in their VM, or you don't know exactly what versions of things are in there, or you don't know why Homebrew is failing in there, or you don't know why Homebrew is configured in there but not working, or what packages might be installed. I've had it run out of disk space before. Those things are hard to sort out when you're doing it locally. And so it's very, it really is the ticket to figure it out. Again, feel free to raise any question or topic on GitHub Actions and Tmate that you want as we go along. This is just for you, so this is just for us to study this together and learn together. So, and I know that all of you have had a variety of experiences with GitHub Actions. Obviously, there's alternatives to using Tmate. The easiest thing is to figure out whether the problem happens locally. So if you run the tests locally, you run the tests in a similar environment. I often try, I'm often on a Mac, on an ARM64 Mac. And so when I need to recreate a problem that would be AMD 64 Linux, which is what um, GitHub is, is what we usually have running there, I will try to use Gitpod, for example, or another AMD 64 Linux environment. Sometimes I can recreate something in a WSL2 on an AMD 64. But on almost all of our GitHub actions, we have Tmate pre-configured, so it's a pretty easy thing to start working with it. And I have some examples that we'll take a look at today and see how those work for us. There is another thing, Nectos Act, that if you Google how to debug GitHub Actions, it will immediately bring up Tmate and Nectos Act. And I am sure that ACT is useful for something, but I have never ever succeeded in getting it to do anything for me. Mostly because it's, you know, when you're working with GitHub Actions, you're usually working with Linux, and you're usually working with AMD 64. And if you're trying to use Nectos ACT locally, you probably don't have that same environment. Anyway, I haven't succeeded. Have any of you ever succeeded with ACT?
I tried this tool, and the thing is, you need to specify a specific Docker image to run this with, and it usually doesn't work well with something specific to GitHub Actions. So it's not everything you can test with this ACT. It's useful for simple stuff, but anything simple you can test with GitHub Actions itself. So it's not much.
Yeah. Like I say, it has to be useful because it's still out there and lots of things point to it. But when you use Tmate, you're actually SSHing into the real thing, and it's much more effective. And we'll do that in just a moment. So there are security concerns here. When you are SSHing into it, you are proxying through ssh.tmate.io. And so obviously that is not controlled by GitHub, and it's not controlled by you, and that all matters. So you will want to be aware of that. In a lot of situations, there aren't any security concerns. Like with the repo that we're working at today, there are no secrets in there. But if you do have secrets, then anybody who can anybody who can go in there, who can SSH into your Tmate session, can see those secrets. So that's one reason why I invariably put limit access to actor true, so that a random person who happens to be watching my sessions can't SSH in there. I'm a little surprised that that is not the default. It would make sense for that to be the default, in my opinion. Anyway, that's the way I invariably use it. So let's take a look at what we're going to actually work on today, and we can improve these and experiment with them as you see fit. I created a repo that you can use any way you want to. Here it is, and you can fork that. Probably we could probably do PRs on that today, but it's probably easier to fork and experiment with yourself. But I'm happy to give you permissions on it as we work today, if you would like to do that. And of course, if you have suggestions, we can do anything that we want while we're working on it. So first of all, in the workflows, I created these 5 workflows that are just basic workflows, including a basic push setup. And this one is just kind of something that you might have in your own workflow, where it has a job that runs on push, and it does some work. Like this is actually setting up, installing DDEV. and then maybe it installs a, this is installing Drupal, and then maybe it drops you into the session. So let's go ahead and do that one. I'm going to just, I don't have anything new to do here, so I'm going to say allow empty. And I'm going to push it. And that should start this one, the DDEV Drupal setup on push. So I'm just going to click on actions here and open that up. And here are our push things that happened. And the one that we were working on is this one here. And here's our commit with the tryout basic workflows. And we can see it going to work already. This is what you're familiar with already with GitHub Actions. It's doing its GitHub Actions as they need to be done. So it's just doing a little bit of work there. And then it's going to drop us into the Tmate session, and we'll do what we need to do in the Tmate session. I wish we could train the captions to understand the difference between teammate and teammate. But I guess we're not going to be able to train them. Also wish I could put the caption someplace other than blocking off my setup. So here we have our junk project has been created by our GitHub action, and now it's coming up and should be ready for us. And we don't know what all might be broken or good about it or whatever. It's doing the composer install, and we should be able to go ahead and SSH in there pretty quickly. Interesting. I didn't anticipate the permission to beam up there, and it caught it with the next return, next carriage return there. So anyway, this is kind of a basic thing where we're waiting for work to be done and then injecting our teammate session after that. So here's our teammate session, and it's telling me that I can SSH in with this using my key that I have configured in GitHub. Again, I won't typically use these. I typically won't use teammate without controlling that. So here we are now in the GitHub action, and I love to be able to see, for example, to see how big the image is. Of course, this is documented, but here I know that it has 16 gigs of memory available, and I can do a df-h dot and see how much disk they gave me and how much is available. So the basic setup that they have, plus the little bit that I added to it, is 55 gigs out of a total of 73. So here we're solving the actual problems that we have when we're trying to debug things that are specific to GitHub Actions. because we're actually on the real item. So if I do a release star release, we see that we're on Ubuntu 22.04, which is what they currently have for Ubuntu latest. They have 24.04, but for some reason it's not latest yet. So I don't know exactly how that works out. But anyway, here we are. We know what we are. Here we are in this environment. We have set up a project. We can use the project. We can do a curl against it. We could actually do a links against it. Oh, actually, it didn't get an install happen to it. Let's do a DDEV drush. Make this come up. So we'll do a oh. I didn't apparently finish all the things that I needed to do in the GitHub action. So it was a PHP project still, even though all the code was laid down, but I hadn't done a DDEV config -- update. And so we need to switch to the correct project type. And now I should be able to do a DDEV drush SI. Well, did I do it? Huh. If I do a DDEV config -- oh, I'm not in the right directory. So we'll do an update, a restart, and now we should be okay. I forgot that it was creating this in the junk directory, in the junk subdirectory. Feel free to speak up anytime. We'll take up any topic that you're interested in. I just want to show that we have had some work done here, and we can go in and interact with this any way we want. So now I should be able to do the DDEV drush SI and have it work okay. And then I can actually run, I can actually install, for example, links and interact with this website as it is and see whether it got properly installed and that kind of thing. Even though I'm in a text-based environment, I can do that. So I'm going to do a links and make cert got installed, so that's okay. So here we are, and we can actually see that it's working properly. We've got all the things of our website that we would expect to see here. And I'll say Q to exit out of there. But I can examine the website. I can curl the website. I can do all the things that I would want to do here in order to debug this live. And then when I'm done, now it has just, now this happens sometimes. Right now, this has hung on me, and I don't know why. And I don't know whether I can recover from this. There it finally recovered. So I can now either do to finish this, let's go take a look at what's in this actual action. This is the Drupal setup. You'll see that our Tmate session is the end here. So there isn't anything that's going to happen after this, but I can let it go either by exiting, or I could do a tilde, I could do a tilde dot, or I could touch/continue. And that says, go ahead and continue the thing. So sometimes if Tmate was early in the workflow, I would need to do something to fix the workflow and then touch/continue. In this case, touch sudo touch/continue. And it would then continue. See, it dumped me out. And you see that it has completed the job here now in our build. So that's an example of interacting with it. And I could have exited I could have just exited the session and it would have continued on as well. So that's this workflow, this basic workflow here that just ran on push. And then we interacted with it because we added a Tmate session here at the bottom of it. Any questions or comments about that particular one?
So is this something you would just always have in a workflow and use it when you want to? Or if you specifically need to debug, would you update the workflow to add this step?
Our strategy on DDEV is to always put it in there and to so that because it's too much work to do a commit. Sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly where to put it, but we always have it in there. And it depends where you want to put it. So you can put it so that it only comes up after a failure, after a specific failure. And you can also do it so that it only happens on a workflow dispatch. So it's not intrusive. And so you can, sometimes you just have to inject it. Like in this one that we just did, it's always there. And that's what you would do if you were adding it for a particular debugging problem. But we usually have it in there so that it's on, a lot of times we'll put it on a workflow dispatch. So we'll do that one next because that's a very straightforward way to do it. And then we'll also do one where it only happens on a failure. But my answer is we always try to put it in there already. And sometimes we have it in exactly the right place and sometimes we don't. But just to debug something, you don't necessarily want to have to make a commit and you don't necessarily want to have to leave something in there. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we try a workflow dispatch?
I think Truls had a question.
Oh, Truls, sorry. Okay. Can you do Tmate locally? I don't think so. Here, let me answer in the chat too. I don't know how you would do Tmate locally, but you should be able to do what the GitHub action is doing locally. So normally you would try out the thing that is failing before fooling with Tmate. I hope that helps, Truls. Thank you, David, for pointing that out. Sometimes I can't keep my eyes on the chat. Any other questions or comments before we try out a workflow dispatch? Okay, here we'll try a workflow dispatch. So this one here is one where this could be run other ways, but in this case, the only event that we have set up for it is a workflow dispatch. And this is it's kind of, even the ones that are workflow dispatch only are kind of classic, and we use them quite a lot. It's how we build it's usually how we build our Docker images, and we build them manually by going to a system like this. So if I go to the actions on this project, and I go to our one that's called a workflow dispatch example. Here's one that was running an hour ago, so we don't need that happening anymore. But we would select that workflow dispatch example and say run workflow. In this case, there's only one branch, but if you were doing a PR or something, you could select a different branch to use that. And we're going to click the checkbox. This is the case where you only want Tmate to happen when we have clicked the checkbox. So I'm going to say run that workflow. And so we're manually starting that so that we can experiment with it. And it's only doing Tmate if I've clicked the checkbox. So it's going to start up here in a second. There it is, it started up, and we can follow it along. And you see it is doing the Tmate session setup here. First, it did an ls-l as an action before that. Now it's setting up Tmate because we have Tmate set up to run because we clicked the checkbox. So, and our action looks like this, where we do a checkout, do the ls-l, set up the Tmate session if the thing was clicked, and then we do something after that. So here we are, and now it is waiting for us. So now I can go in there. Sometimes it's hard to capture the SSH thing here. So I can go in there now, and here I am. I've done all the things. I'm checking out. I'm wondering what's happened. You see that the touch or the creation of the before Tmate .txt happened. And then if I, this time I'm just going to exit it, and then it will continue on. So I have essentially paused the workflow so that I could do anything I wanted here. And now I'll exit from it. And now if we go back here, we'll see that it continues on to the last step and the cleanup. So the workflow technique is really useful. And sometimes you'll have a workflow technique where you can either launch it on a push or a PR or a workflow dispatch. And the workflow dispatch with the check mark, with the checkbox to enable the debug is lovely. It's a great way to start it off easily without having to do commits or that sort of thing. So that's the basic idea there. I really like these, and I have added them to a number. If we have problematic workflows, I've added those just explicitly on some of the workflows, because then they're there forever and you can use them as needed. Comments or questions on this? It looks like, Andre, you were going to point something out.
Sorry, no,
No.
not really.
It's all right. I love the fact that you could do that. I love the fact that you can draw on the screen. It's great.
I don't know how to remove it.
It doesn't. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know how that works. Okay. I'm sure there's a way. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at the on-fail example. So this one is just called on failure, and we have it set up for push, and I have created a failure. So you can inject so that Tmate only runs when you have had a failure. So that's what we have here. We have one little step to begin with, then we have a failure. So running, executing false is a failure. And then right after that, we have a Tmate session that starts only on failure. Now, in a real life situation, your failure would be something random that you didn't understand, and you would put this right after the step that you didn't understand, and it would issue a failure. This does have, according to their docs, this does have to be on the step after the failure. I thought it could be anywhere, but it needs to be on the step after the failure. But when you have a complex situation, this is actually pretty useful. And you could, if you had more than one step that had failures that you didn't understand, you could have more than one of these. So this is a failure one. We actually may still have one of these waiting for us to see what's happening. So let's go see if we still have an on failure waiting for us. We do. We still have this one waiting from when we were starting up. And so this is our on failure, and it's been waiting all this time for us because it had a failure. And so let's SSH into this one. So here we are. This one created a I touched it .text. I should have done an echo $? When we got in there, and maybe that would have showed us the error from the failure. But what I had just done in the thing was a fail or a false. When you do a false, that's a failure. And so that's what happened there. So we could put any of those on failures after sections that were problematic. And I can let this continue with touch continue, and it will knock me out, I believe. Yep, there it did. It knocked me out, and it completed that job. So let's see, there's one other here that is detached that I wanted to show. And I don't think my example is perfect because you need a more complicated workflow. But this one waits until everything is done, no matter what is below it. It waits till everything is done, and then it gives you access to it. I don't think it works on failure, but a lot of times you have a workflow that is not behaving exactly the way you would want it to, and you want to know what things look like when it's done. And so that's what this one is. This one's on push, and we probably still have one of these waiting for us as well. But what it did, and I didn't put anything more complex in it, I just put these setup Tmate session on this one on push and told it to do detached. And then it did a little bit of something, which we can go look at. And then it waited and waited and waited for us to connect to it. So let's see if it's still waiting for us. This is the detached one. So if I go to actions here, detached, we don't Let's see if did it give up on us? It looks like it must have given up on us. Yeah, it gave up on us. So let's push another commit in there. So we'll just push that one. And now these are going to start up again. And it's detached that we're going to try. So here's our detached, and we can watch it for a minute. You see it's setting up the Tmate, and now it's doing the little task that I gave it to do, which is just touching a file and then sleeping for 30 seconds. And while I'm doing that, maybe I can figure out how to do the right thing. No, I can't figure out how to do the thing that Stas just told me to do. Anyway, so here we are. It did the work. It waited 30 seconds. And now, because we're at the end and because we set it up to be detached, it ran at the end. So here we go. And I can go in there and see exactly what did happen. You see that the file is there. And now I can exit or touch continue, and it will complete, and there it's done. So there's where I need to go to annotations, annotate, and well, I found how to here's the X. No, I don't know. Still don't know how to do it, but I can make Stas the host, and then it will be doable. So can you fix it now that you're the co-host, Stas?
I will try. I don't know.
I lose track of the connections, and I don't want to get distracted anyway and that little red piece is not doing us any harm. So okay, so there we are. We did all the things. This stuff is pretty easy to do, and if you're set up, you can do it, and you can experiment with these anytime. You can just fork this repository and you can just experiment with these just like we've been doing. And in my opinion, the thing to do is to experiment in small places like this. So when you're having trouble with a GitHub workflow, go work in a junk repository like this one and see what you can do with that. I'm going to turn off the share here. See what you can do with that and fiddle with it and experiment with the basics of it. And then you have a path to success, and then inject it into the real problem that you're working with, and you can go forward with that. Any questions or comments on anything that we've done or anything about GitHub Actions? Did it make any sense? A lot of silence out there.
I want to try this with some JavaScript actions. I don't know if it's doable when you have a GitHub action, script action, and I usually try to change something in JavaScript and run it again and again, and I don't know if it's doable with Tmate, so I don't need to restart it all the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a good technique. So Stas's technique that he just suggested is where you don't really understand the basics of what is going on, and there might be different ways that you can try it. And it's a real pain to do a new commit and try it and wait for it, and new commit and try and wait for it. And instead, you just put the pause in there and SSH into it, and then you can just do all the things that you need to do, try all the things and see what works in that GitHub environment. So that's a good technique. Any other comments, questions, thoughts, or things that you would like to do the next time we do one of these? Well, you're awfully quiet. We'll go ahead and finish up then. I'm so glad that you came, and it's great to see you all. And if you have any questions about anything relating to DDEV or anything else in the world that you want to talk about, we can hang out here for a little while. But I'm so glad you came, and thanks so much. And we'll have this recorded and have it available, and I'll write a blog post to go with it.
Thank you very much, Randy. It was nice to learn about this new tool, which is totally new to me. So a lot of things to review here for me.
It's a lot of fun. It's great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Randy.
Jules.
Thank you.
Great to see you, David. Great to
Bye.
see you, Ray. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.